Hello viewers, Super GT here, welcome back to another video. Thank you for joining me for this one. So, we have a new week of daily races on Gran Turismo Sport. This is the grid for Daily Race C. So, pole position, a rare pole position for Super GT, starting at the very sharp end. And this race is going to be edited slightly differently, but in many ways the same as I used to do it, in such that we're going to have a look at multiple perspectives throughout the race. And the main person we want to look at is, of course, Super GT, but also PG Motorsport, who is currently in third position on the grid. Okay, so, away from the line. So, rolling start, of course, here in Daily Race C. And you can see just how spread out the pack is. In fact, if you look at the map, you can see just how far behind the person in last is in 18th place. They're good. Probably about 10 seconds behind already. Just shows you how important qualifying is. And we put in a good 45.7 in the AMG, although it could definitely go quicker in the Audi R8, which is the quickest qualifying car in Group 3 for this race, for this track. Okay, so at the moment, early doors, we're getting hounded by second place in the Jaguar. But the strategy really is to keep it nice and calm, because we do not want to have to go in the pits. So if you go all out on the fuel, if you just burn all your fuel, go mental with the revs through each gear change, then you will have to pit. But around here, the pit lane is so long; it is ridiculously long. So you just don't want to do that. You have to avoid it at all costs. As this Jaguar gets very, very close, thinking about going a little bit defensive, but into the hairpin here, turn 10. He's not quite close enough to go for that move. He could have gone for it with a savage lunge, but obviously decided against doing that. And then through the final sector here, the twisty sector 3 of the Catalunya circuit. As we come into this right-hander, escaping from the old layout, and then into the final chicane where you really do have to abuse the curbs quite a lot. And unfortunately for the guy behind me, as you can see just in front there, he just gets a little bit loose on the sausage curb on the outside and completely bends himself. And PG Motorsport, therefore, goes up into second place. So first lap, fairly successful, kept our lead. And we've got a 2.2 second gap to PG Motorsport there in second place. So the main strategy, really, is on fuel at least. It's quite a simple equation. Okay, divide the 11, or divide 100%. You've got 100% fuel at the start. Divide that by 11. You've got near enough 9% per lap to use. So that's something you should be monitoring throughout the race. After lap 1, I should have 90% because it starts on 99. You should go down to 90. At the end of this lap, you should have 81, then 72, then 63. If you know your 9 times table backwards. But that is basically the equation when it comes to fuel, so you can keep monitoring that throughout the race. As the car gets lighter as well, it does use less fuel, so towards the end of the race you should use less fuel per lap. So you can kind of go a little bit heavier at the start. And PG Motorsport, they're serving a penalty just a half a second, so it wouldn't have cost him too much time as he comes into the hairpin. So you can see the gap there. That's pretty much what this guy has to reel in over the course of this race. He's driving the Honda NSX, which I've not known to be a great car for Group 3, but this is a very different race. This isn't like the Kyoto race last week where you're flat out for 4 laps. Because of course race C is always different than race B. This is very much a case of you're driving under the limit of the car. You're not driving as fast as you possibly can, because if you do, you wear out your tyres, you wear out, or you use up too much fuel. We're going to skip forward a little bit there. So we are now halfway through lap 4, and you can see still the gap is fairly okay from my point of view, but it is definitely getting smaller. The Honda here just starting to hit its stride and beginning to slowly but surely reel me in. And this is something that kind of is worrying, but at the same time, when you're in the lead and someone's catching up, especially on a race like this, you don't know if it's because they are genuinely quicker or are they using up too much fuel and using up all their tyres. So this is a question that with the answer is unknown to me at this point. So of course, looking at the replay here, we can see how much fuel he's got left. So it's about 70%. In fact, he had a tiny bit more than what I did, and his tyres were in slightly better nick as well. So I set the fastest lap there on lap 4. Then he comes across the line, sets the fastest lap as well. So he beats me just by a tiny amount. But you can monitor that gap there. So I did a 47.7, he did a 47.6. So he gained about a tenth on me on that lap. Gap down to 1.8 with 6 laps left to go. Sorry, 7 laps left to go, or less than now. And just constantly checking back just to see exactly where they are. So yeah, it's a weird race this, because you're not driving on the limit, you're driving under the limit. So you kind of have to drive to a smooth, consistent speed. And you're not completely pushing the car to its limits. It's quite a strange way of driving. It's very different than just driving flat out. It's actually harder, I would say, in many ways. And trying to preserve your tyres at the same time as trying to go as quickly as possible. It's a very strange phenomenon. It does take a very specific set of skills. So it's a tough one. It's a very difficult race, I would say, because it's very different than most races. As we come then into the hairpin, 1.5 the gap. Again, it's still coming down. As we come into that hairpin, you can see him there in the rear of the shot. As we come up there into the final sector. So the final sector here, you can, depending on your car, you can just go down to a leaner setting. Because it's mostly corners, it doesn't affect you so much. You don't need so much power through here. So you can afford to go into a leaner setting on the fuel. Save a bit of fuel for this final setting. You see just how much of that curb you're taking. And it's through this final corner, or the exit of that chicane, into this final corner, I think I was a little bit better every lap. So I was about 1.5 ahead, and then all of a sudden 1.8 as we just come out of that final turn. And again, similar situation. I went across the line, set the faster lap. He went across the line, set a slightly faster lap again. So I did a 47.2. He did a 47.2, but slightly quicker. So we are very evenly paced, but he is just a tiny amount quicker, just a tiny bit quicker as he kind of lags through the turn. That is just a phenomenon of the replays, although this guy did have a poor connection going into the race. So that's something to watch out for. It's really hard to race against someone who's got a poor connection, but hopefully by the time, if he catches up, it improves, and therefore we can actually race properly. I still am staggered, by how mental it is that you can race against people around the world in real time. Don't you think that is actually a crazy thing, that you can race someone the other side of the world in real time on a video game? I still am kind of staggered by that. As enough of that ranting, enough of that disbelief at the internet. PG Motorsport having a bit of a moment coming through the exit of the uphill right-hand turn 9, and almost out of shape, almost beyond the track limit, but he just keeps it under control. The Honda NSX is actually a pretty tricky car to control, and judging by what I've seen so far, he's doing actually a really good job of keeping the car from sliding too much. And this is final chicane where I think he's going to have the most trouble. So on the exit here, he's actually taken it okay that time, but most laps he was having difficulty with getting the power down. The gap comes down to 1.4 now, both a bit slower. So he did a mid 47, I did a high 47, so he's actually a good couple of tenths a lap quicker. You see just how big the gap is now to third place as we pan out there. We're a good 3 or 4 seconds ahead of third place. It really is a two-way fight for the race win here. As we're going to fast forward lap 7 as that gap slowly comes down. He was really good in traction zones actually. He was really good on the power coming out of the corners. And by this point, onto the back straight, coming towards the hairpin, lap number 7, that gap is coming down. He is almost in the slipstream range. Let's not forget, of course, you're looking for about 8 tenths of a second, and then you're in the slipstream, and he is almost there. And as soon as I give him that advantage, then he can fuel save a lot easier. So that is something you don't want to give your opponent, the slipstream. If you can stay out of that 8 temp zone, then really try and push and keep out of it, because you're just helping your opponent as soon as they get into it. So through the final chicane, for the 7th time, running out nicely through the final corner.
and actually the gap just comes back above the 8 tenths, so 9 tenths now. So he's not getting the slipstream down this straight. That will help me. He won't help him, of course. So another consistent lap there, 47.8. He's on a 47.3, so he's half a second quicker at that point of the race. Is he pushing too much on his tyres? Is he using too much fuel? We can see that on the replay now. Bottom left of the screen, you can see it. His tyres are much better than mine. His fuel, we'll have a look in a moment. I think his fuel is slightly better as well. Although at the time of recording, I was not to know. I didn't know how good his fuel was. I didn't know how good his tyres were. So these are all questions I'm asking myself, and I have no answers. He sets a purple first sector, so he's still got some life in the tyres. He's still got the pace to set fastest sectors, even though we are 8 laps deep into the race. But we are pretty much at the beginning of the proper battle now. He is right on me, and there's nothing I can really do other than defend for the last couple of laps. 3.5 laps left to go. He is half a second behind, or less than half a second behind now. So it's going to get very, very difficult. I've switched over from the fuel to the radar, bottom right of the screen. I'm preparing myself for a battle. You need that radar. As soon as anyone's close to you, you really do need that radar. But when no one's around, you can afford to change it to something like the fuel, because we are, of course, monitoring the fuel throughout the race. So, coming out of the hairpin, into the sweeping left, into the right of the final sector. I've gone a little bit too deep there, but for this final sector, it's very difficult to overtake. So the main thing through here is dealing with pressure and just keeping to the line. The pressure is something that can obviously make you force you into a mistake, and he goes a little bit wide there. You see, I was always getting a good run with the main straight, which is crucial because it just gives me a bit of a breathing space coming onto the main straight, which is one of the best overtaking opportunities, of course. The longest straight into a fairly big braking zone normally is one of the best overtaking opportunities on the lap, but it's not close enough on this occasion. Lap number 9, there it is. Look how close it is. The gap has come right down, and there's really not much I can do apart from just defend, cover the inside, give him no space at all, and just make sure that he doesn't come through. So into turn number 4. Hopefully we don't have a Rosberg/Hamilton type event going into here, and we don't. So going through turn 4, into the left of turn 5. Again, he's not quite close enough. I'm just monitoring the radar, bottom right of the screen, and he's not quite there. So the pressure is something that can get you, but I think this is something that you can really learn from just doing a lot of races. Dealing with pressure. It's not something you can just really teach yourself. You just have to just be in the situation, and then you'll learn from it. So just being in this kind of situation multiple times will help. He's very close coming out of that corner. I'm going to have to go defensive, keep to the left hand side. I look at the radar, he moves over to the right, and I can move slightly back to the right as long as I give him a car whip on the outside, and I've defended my position successfully into the hairpin, which again is one of the better overtaking opportunities on the lap alongside turn number 1. So just parking on the apex, not really giving him any space at all. He thinks about a move there, slide it through the apex very nicely into the final hairpin, into the final chicane. Sorry, and just not quite taking the line I would have liked. But again, you see just that gap just opens up slightly on the exit, and that is hopefully the buffer I need to keep him away. Just moving over slightly to try to break the toe, but not too much. As we come down the main straight for the 10th time. Not many laps left to go, only 2 laps left to go at the beginning of lap number 10. So things are getting very, very fiery now as we enter the twilight of the race. Can I keep my position for 2 more laps, or will the Honda here be able to get past? I'm going to make this Mercedes as wide as possible. It's almost, you could say reminiscent of F1 at the moment. You've got Mercedes at the front, and then you've got a Honda-powered car attacking from behind, in many respects like Hamilton and Verstappen, although I'm not really likening myself to Hamilton. Although I reckon I'd smash him on GT Sport. If Hamilton had a go in GT Sport, I'd ruin him. But he'd probably ruin me in F1, let's face it. So up the hill, into the fast sweeping right hand of turn number 9. Crucial corner this, because it leads out onto the straight into a good overtaking opportunity. Is he going to be as close as he was on the previous lap? He is close, 3 tenths behind, but I don't think that's close enough. So I can move back over to the right hand side, slightly defensive, just to make him think twice about going for a dive bomb. He doesn't go for it. Bit of a slide in the exit. The tyres are beginning to wear out at this point of the race. And in fact, my tyres, especially the front left, you see the comparison between myself and his. My tyres are definitely slightly worse off than his tyres. But it is the left, both the left-hand tyres which are worse off than the right, as you are turning right more often on this circuit. Wears out the outside tyres more. So, back onto the main straight. For the final time, we're going to go down into turn 1, and the gap is very, very close indeed. 48.6, the lap times are going off a cliff now. They're getting very, very slow indeed. In fact, he's done a 48.6 as well, although he's stuck up behind me now. Into turn 1, is he close enough to go for the move? Not quite. I think my best defensive mechanism in this race is just to have a good exit out of the final corner, and it just hasn't given him any chance into turn 1. So keep it nice and narrow for the very long right-hander of turn 3. He's quite close here to go for a move into turn 4. I'm going to go defensive, just keep it in the middle of the circuit, and just make sure I don't go too wide here. There is space on the right-hand side. He's going to go into that space, but that is going to be the right-hand side and therefore the wrong side into turn 5. Keep the inside. Main thing here, park it on the apex. Keep it nice and slow. There we go. He can't do the cutback, so I've basically just parked my car, and there's no way around. There's no way around unless he goes a long way round, which is very rarely going to work on a very sharp corner. So he's running out of opportunities to go for this overtake. He's going to have to do it very soon if he wants to win this race. Only half a lap remaining. Coming out of turn number 9. Onto the back straight. He spins around. Lost control of the car. He just lost it on the curb as we come over the top of the hill, and he kind of caught his two wheels on the edge of the curb. Spun him round, and I'm going to go into lean setting 4 as we just can finally just bring the car home without any pressure. But wow, I just managed to hold him off for a couple of laps there. He was in the quicker car, he had better tyres, slightly more fuel, and he just couldn't quite get the job done. I had just enough pace in the right places, just put my car in the right place in the big overtaking opportunities, and there's not much he could do there really, except for go for a big lunge. We finally crossed the line to go to finish first, and he comes across the line a couple of seconds later to claim second. But wow, what a race that was. It started off slowly, but slowly but surely he was catching up. That move was coming. It was going to happen at some point, but he just made a mistake coming over the top of the hill, binned his car into the wall, into the rail. So the Brit wins against the German in the German car. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed the video. As always, let me know your thoughts. Have a nice day, everyone. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.